David Gilroy from Conscious Solutions, doing another video interview. And today I'm pleased to be joined by Andrew Roberts, who represents Symphony Legal when it comes to mergers and acquisitions, and also Ampersand Legal. So Andrew, thanks very much for joining me today. We're going to make this a quite high-paced 15 minutes. And first of all, I'd just like to ask you, what are your current views on what you're seeing in the M&A world in the midst of the biggest crisis I think most law firms have seen?
Well, thank you for having me, David. What I can say that I'm seeing in the M&A world at the moment is absolutely no activity whatsoever. So before we came into this, I had 13 active merger discussions going on. I currently have no active merger discussions going on. They haven't gone away. No one's talking to anybody else at the moment. You get to a certain stage of these discussions where you can do all the desk-based DD that you might want to, but with a merger, because you're often putting two equity groups together, you've got to meet people. You've got to get in their offices. You've got to see what the places are like, So, and we'll come on to that in a bit. And obviously, I'm going around all those. I've got 13 deals. So there's 13 buyers and 13 sellers. That's 26 people. I'm talking to everybody all the time. And they all assure me that the deals will come back on and they are keen to do it. But at the moment, there's just nothing going on.
Okay. It's interesting to see that...
I really just got out of bed. If I wasn't talking to you, I wouldn't be doing anything. I am joking.
Well, it's interesting to see that Moore Blash and Barlow Robbins are still going ahead with their merger, which happens on Friday, doesn't it? And that's the deal date.
Yeah, well, I think once you get to that stage, once you announce it, broadly you are committed.
Yeah.
Of my 13, I've got 4 at heads of terms stage at the moment. But again, whilst we're knocking around the heads of terms, there's only so much you can do. And the problem is, and again, we'll touch on this, you can't start any new deals off at the moment because the first stage of a merger is either meeting someone like me or meeting someone they want to merge with.
Right.
You can't do that, and if you can't meet anyone.
Yeah. And the other one that I saw last week was Burkitt's over in Essex, East Anglia, merging with a insurance-based specialist boutique firm called EC3 in London.
Yeah, I saw that. Well, that's what an acquisition is, and I think the Barlow Robbins and Moore Blash thing is a proper merger, and yeah. I imagine they are regretting the time. And great deal, though. I mean, it makes loads of sense, that one.
Yeah.
The EC3 one, I guess it was just a way of getting a foothold into London. I know they've been trying to do that for a while now.
Right. Okay. So from one of the things we were talking about in the prep was firms need to make a decision. Are they the predator or the prey, to use your language? Is it pretty obvious that a firm is on one side or the other based on financial stability, management skill, growth appetite, or not?
Yeah, and the biggest factor in all of it is the partners themselves and where they are in their career cycles, what they want to achieve. So they'll all, a firm will know whether it's prey or predator by when they're sitting around the table. Frankly, do they want to get taken over and have all the hassle taken away? Or do they want to carry on growing? So it's where they are in their growth cycle. Generally, without being ageist, age has a lot to do with it. If the partner group is in its 30s, 40s, 50s, probably predator. If the partner group is in its 50s, 60s, 70s, probably prey. But actually, and very much that then leads on to smaller firms. There are 10,400 law firms in the country, as I'm sure you know. A third of them are in the south east. And in the central 9 London postcodes, there are 350 1 to 3 partner law firms, of which at least a half have partners in their late 60s, or 60s and late 60s. So those firms are ripe for M&A, or being taken over, essentially. They are natural prey, if you like.
Because they've got nowhere to go, because there are just so many of them. If they had the appetite for growth, they'd have done it by now, past 3 partners. Is that why you're saying they're natural prey?
I think that's, I've done this now for 10 years, and I guess I do about 8 or 9 deals a year. And often they are a bigger firm like Burkitt's coming in to take over a smaller firm in London, which tends to have a partner of the demographic that I've spoken about. There's no harm in that. I mean, they've had a great business for the last 20 years. They've earned very well. They've had good clients. They've kept the staff doing well. But actually, the time to grow a firm is probably when you're in your late 40s, early 50s. It's not in your late 50s, early 60s. So I think you almost missed the boat by accident. So you probably started out thinking you were a predator, and then you morph into becoming prey. almost, as I say, you sleepwalk into it. But there's no harm in that. I mean, I've done some great deals where by the firm looking to come into London, I did the Buckles-Lindales merger. Buckles was a £15 million firm in the northern eastern counties, Peterborough, Cambridge, Nottingham, that kind of area. Really wanted to get in London. They merged with Lindales, a nice three-partner firm in just off Tavistock Square, and everyone's very happy. It worked well. Because if you're a regional firm just coming in to try to open up in London, and you take over you take on one or two people, that's a really hard way of growing a London practice. Because then one of those people might leave, then you've got to replace them, and you just never get going.
Yeah, Buckles have been a client of ours for probably nearly 10 years, so we did get a little bit of foresight on that a week or two before, just to get the website ready. So, but not too much notice. So, the mechanics of a deal for people who've never been through it, where are the big stumbling blocks?
Well, I think at the moment, if you just look at where we are now and what firms can do in this current situation, if they are in discussions, and the discussions have to go on hold, and they are still able to do the desktop research. You are able to do look at the employment contracts, maybe negotiate the asset purchase agreement or share purchase agreement, whatever it might be, or the merger agreement if it's going to be two LPs coming together. You're able to work out the organograms of the various groups and that kind of thing within the firm. So, it doesn't all have to stop. I mean, and we are still doing this background work on my deals, but it's not ever going to be quite as good as it was. And then I think as long as the rationale for doing a merger is still there, as soon as we come out of the lockdown, whenever that might be, hopefully not too long, then there'll be this pent-up demand and wish to go and get on with it again. The clients, I think, are still going to be there, and everyone might be slightly hurt financially, but then both sides are. So that's fine. It's not like when house prices fall, everyone thinks that the house you're looking to buy should be cheaper, but your house doesn't get affected. But I don't think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, well, that's a dream world that nobody lives in. So, and also there's a phrase that gets bandied around a lot, which is, and this is not just for law firms, it's the same in my kind of agency world. If you were a bad business at the end of February, you're still a bad business at the end of April or May. The fact that you might be able to furlough a few staff doesn't make a difference if you already have an overdraft, if you're bouncing up against loan limits for a business of your size. Whatever we say about the viability of the CBILS program and the bounce back loans that got announced just this week, if you can't afford more debt, you can't afford more debt. I mean, that doesn't change it. And I speak from it as a business who's never had an overdraft, which when I talk to my law firm clients, they're majorly surprised about. I'm like, well, why? Because we don't take all the profit in the business. We leave it in for growth. We leave it in for financing costs, as in the cost of running the business and cash flow, which I see so many law firms not in that situation.
Well, you're right, I think, about the affordability of debt. And it's very tempting to take it on and smooth cash flow. But as you say, if you're still a bad business, you're going to be a bad business anyway. However, leading on to that, when these firms come out, the discussion should then restart, and then maybe the two parties in this situation could be discussing a timeline for when they're allowed out again. And the next big lump seems to be, there's a merger cycle. People tend to merge either on the PII or the financial year. And the PII year generally is coming up is October the 1st. Let's say we come out at the end of June. That's when the furlough period finishes. So you'd imagine that might be a reasonable, You've got summer, but I don't imagine anyone's going away very much this summer. So actually, to run towards a decent deal by plenty of time for the PII schedule would be fine, especially because PII is going to be really difficult. I know that Howden's well, as do I, and they're saying that PII premiums could well be up 13 to 15% this year. So, that's a real concern. And if you are that three-partner firm in Holborn, why on earth would you want to go and buy PII again to merge a month later? It doesn't make any sense. So that's a natural. It's a natural ramp that people go over.
If I really want to upset a law firm, I just tell them that my entire business insurance policy, PII, everything else is under £7,000 a year, and that generally makes their eyes water. So, but then we're not looking after client money and those kinds of things. Okay.
No, and you're not advising on a purchase of a bit of land that might have a way of, right way over it.
Yeah, yeah. So for firms who are going through this, crisis, going, God, this is just too complicated. I'd rather find a safe pair of hands, a bigger home, because it's just too risky. What are the first steps, do you think?
Well, I think there'll be quite a few of those. I mean, furloughing and the CBILS loans, all those kind of things, there won't be any firms that fold during this, but there'll be firms that will link through it. And as partners finally get through it and start looking to the future, they'll realise that they just don't want to do it anymore. And that can be any age, of course. But will again tend to be slightly older partners who maybe held on. They've had some good years and thought, well, one more year and then we'll do something about it. Well, now they've got to do something about it. So what they can do at this stage is work out whether they are the prey or the predator. But if we just concentrate on the prey at the moment and what they might do, I think they've got to look long and hard at their own business and see actually what is it that is in there which is attractive and what is it they could get out of which isn't going to be attractive. So they also need to be doing, producing a decent, a bit of homework really. Get a bundle of documents together, get the lease together, 6 years PI history, PI prop forms, 2 years accounts, management accounts, employee contracts, list of the top 20 clients that they have. Maybe do that analysis over 3 years, so someone coming in can see that there isn't just, the dominant partner doesn't have one client that's been supporting the whole firm for years, because that client will probably go away. So it's that kind of analysis that they need to do. Also, one thing which everyone forgets is storage. Check out what's in your storage. If you're storing 20 years worth of files, no firm taking you over is going to want 20 years worth of files. So this is a good opportunity to go to your storage company and get rid of it.
So it's about cleaning house at one degree and prepping, knowing the kind of things that people are going to want to look for first of all.
But also maybe deciding what your ideal predator would look like.
Right.
So if you are in London, then it might be really attractive, and you might, and you're near King's Cross, you're going to be more attractive to a large firm around the northern hemisphere, or northern part of the M25. So I think that it's kind of doing that again. That can be desktop analysis. Look at your areas of practice and see how they might attract a larger firm outside of London, or indeed, we're talking about non-London into London. There are plenty of London firms who are looking to acquire as well. So a lot of my deals tend to be driven by the lease. When someone's lease has got a year or less to run, they're a lot more open about merging with other people. The lease might not be a situation. You're unlikely to get the lease coming up at the right time as we come out of here. Although I do have a client in the West End who's got 3 floors of a large building at the moment, and what with everybody working from home and being very happy about that and being quite productive, he's not going to take on 3 floors when the lease is up at the end of the year. It's going to be maybe 1.5. So I think we're all seeing that. Sorry, I digress.
Yeah. No, well, somebody asked me that, and I've got 2 years left on mine, so I'm not getting out of that anytime soon.
Absolutely. And the other thing is, but you can then assess. Actually, we're all working remotely. Do you need all those support staff? Who is essential and who isn't essential? And if you do a budget which has your current staff costs and then maybe your future staff costs, any saving there goes straight to the bottom line and makes you more attractive. So that's a very positive thing.
And kind of almost final question for me, I think, which is the money question. Any changes over the last year or two in what firms are paying? Is it a straightforward 5 times profits without, partner drawings, or is it 1 times turnover? Is it 0.7? Are there any easy ways of somebody looking at their numbers going, I might get X or X plus or minus a percentage?
Yeah. Well, that's a question we get asked very often. Before I get on to that, can I just say, but if you were a predator firm, this is a brilliant time to actually work out which of the offices which locations your offices are currently in, which you might want to develop by taking on other local small firms, or which new areas you want to get into. Because when we come out of it, there will be lots of firms who are going to be willing to enter discussions, more so than ever. But then just come back to your point. I often get asked this, and it's a bit contentious, but really there isn't any value in law firms. The value is escaping from your liabilities. Storage is a massive cost. PII, huge costs, running off, all these kind of things. So if you think about a normal firm, £1 million turnover firm with 8% PII, would be paying £80,000 for PII plus tax. That's probably £100,000. Then if you have to pay 2.5 times that to close the business down, that's $250,000. Then you've got to go and buy storage, and you've got to lay off everything. So actually, it's going to cost you $400,000 to close that business down.
Yeah.
Whereas if someone comes in and pays you net asset value, which obviously, as you look at your assets, you take away your liabilities, and that's your net asset value. That's the money that's in the practice. That's what they'll purchase off you. If you can get that out and save yourself £400,000, I think that's a good deal.
Yeah.
I haven't done any deals. No, I've done one deal where there's been a purchase and a multiple. Everything else has been either net asset value or just a merger of the balance sheets. Right. It's the liabilities that drive these things, not the not cashing out at the end.
Yeah, right. which is as a business owner, I sit here going, my God. I know it's a strange world, and it's a different world than one I live in with agency stuff. So, but it's
the accountants don't get it either, because the accountants have gross recurring fees. You have gross recurring fees.
Yeah,
there's a value in the income stream, whereas lawyers just don't have gross recurring fees, but they do have recurring liabilities.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, any final point from you, Andrew? Because what I'm going to do, I'll put contact details when we put the video up online, so I can do that on the beginning and end slides. So no need for that. Final two big tips for firms, and let's focus on the prey, because I think we both think there's going to be more in the prey category than there is in the predator for sure.
Yeah, no, prey category. The first thing, take this opportunity to do your housekeeping and get it all looking right. So when someone comes along, you look professional, you look well run. Second point is there are going to be buyers out there. It's a good market. They're well-run firms. I mean, we touched on Buckles. 60% of their business is private client. Well, that's going through the roof. So great. Residential conveyancing has taken a hit, but other firms are doing very well. So I think there are opportunities out there for the right firms that will be the right buyers. And as you said before, if you're a bad firm before we went into this, chances are you're running a bad firm when you come out of it. So the options would be less.
Yeah,
it's not all doom and gloom. It's going to be fine.
Andrew, appreciate your time this afternoon. As I say, if anybody wants to get in contact, then they can pick up the contact details from the slide at the end of the video. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it. Thanks for your time.